Today, more than 1 in 3 Americans is classified as obese. A fat tax may help to solve this issue, but it's incredibly controversial. As an American, I see obesity every single day. Even if I'm just walking down the street, it's very common that I will see multiple obese individuals. The issue of a fat tax relates to you, my listeners, because this is something that can affect you in your lifetime, and it may affect your taxation or lack of taxation in the future. A fat tax has some very great pros in that it incentivizes healthy habits and leads to a more productive American workforce. Thus, it is very economically viable to implement such a fat tax. However, it can be said that a fat tax is unfair to some groups, so it is very socially questionable, and the merits of which are unknown. First, let's start by discussing the economic rationale of a fat tax. A fat tax places the increased healthcare costs and lost productivity with the people who actually cause these losses. Obese individuals have been shown to have increased risk of coronary heart disease, stroke, and diabetes, among other life-threatening and dangerous activities. One study showed that for coronary heart disease, men who were obese had a prevalence rate of 41.8% compared to normal men who had a prevalence rate of 34.9%. In women, the difference was just as severe, going from 25% for normal weight individuals, shooting up to 32.4% for obese women. In an interview with the New York Times, Dallas M. Cosgrove, who is a heart surgeon at the Cleveland Clinic, commented on how he is very unlikely to hire obese individuals if this is legal. He is quoted as saying, "People's weight is a reflection of how much they eat and how active they are. The country has grown fat because it's consuming more calories and burning fewer. Our national weight problem brings huge costs, both medical and economic." The government published some data, and in 2000 stated that obesity was actually the second largest cause of death from modifiable factors, trailing only tobacco usage. 365,000 American citizens died in 2000 because of this. Additionally, healthcare costs soar with obesity. One study showed that healthcare costs are 36% more for obese individuals compared to people who are of normal weight. Thus, it is a very economically sound alternative because the costs are paid by who is actually incurring these extra expenditures, or the obese people. Additionally, it can be said that the obese are less productive and thus less valuable workers to the American economy. One study showed that there is a tremendous amount of lost productive time, which takes into account both the missed days and the days that people did show up to work, but were less than fully productive. There was a significant difference in obese individuals' lost productive time and normal weight individuals. Another study, which stratified individuals by how often they were absent from work, showed that the most obese individuals were 1.23 times more likely to be in the highest absentee group than normal weight individuals, thus showing that there are strong ties between absenteeism from work and obesity. Another study pinned the cost of such absenteeism at $3.4 to $6.4 billion. The same study showed presenteeism, which is where you go to work but you're sick at work so you can't be fully utilized, at $7.8 billion per year. Thus, the American economy is far less efficient when there are more obese people operating within it. To summarize what I've just said, fat tax would lead to more productive because of less expenditures being spent for the American economy. Thus, this is a very viable option. Now that we've discussed the economic pros of implementing a federal fat tax, let's talk about some of the negatives, specifically that this is socially not viable. This may unfairly target the poor, especially women who are uneducated and people with poor genes. The lowest economic women are targeted. For example, a study showed that 42% of the lowest socioeconomic group of women were obese. Compare that to the highest socioeconomic class, where only 29% of such women were obese. The links were not the same for men, showing that women are targeted. There was also a negative relationship shown with education and obesity in women. The lower the education level, the higher the prevalence rate of obesity. Again, no such links were shown for men, showing that again, women who are uneducated and also who are poor are most likely to be hit with such a fat tax. So this does not just target poor women, but it also targets people who do have poor genetics. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention said that not only genetics, but the variation in how people respond to the same environment suggests that genetics do play a role in the development of obesity. The same article goes on to say that genes boost hunger and food intake at the same time, showing that people can't always control their weight, and that it may not be up to the person whether or not they are obese. Thus, genetics, while not the sole factor in obesity, does play a role in the equation. The science of this is too technical to get into for such a short speech. However, it has been shown that families and groups are predisposed to being targeted by this, and thus would be unfairly burdened by such a tax. What I've just said shows that the poor, uneducated women, and people with unfortunate genes, neither of which can be changed, are more likely to pay the economic cost of this tax. America has a huge obesity problem, and we need to solve it. However, is a fat tax the way to do it? It's very questionable because it does target people, even though it does make economic sense. Both sides of the issue are very convincing. And keep in mind that 35% of you will likely be obese, based on statistics, and you may have to pay this tax. So, if a fat tax appears on a public proposition, how will you vote?